pop in, I'll invite him on.
Okay,
Why,
cool.
hi
Whatever
there.
works.
Sure, that's Tony Whitehill. And I'm Ron. Tony had someone
Hey.
on the other day at work that he'd wanted to do it again. And well, what was supposed to happen tonight was that I was supposed to do a fight and or have a fight, but our buddy Al, I don't think is feeling all that well still, and so here we are. You know, remember Tony when
Here we are.
younger and the writers would be on strike on television and they'd come up with all these crazy fill-in shows.
Pretty good. Some of them were god awful.
Oh yeah.
Now they don't even need writers. They got reality shows. They need writers.
Are you kidding? Those are the most scripted shows on television.
True.
It's just like, watching an old episode of Jerry Springer. It's like, do you seriously think after the second or third time that you saw someone's cousin go, let's go to Chicago?
I like pro wrestling, so I know a little bit about weird programming.
When did that actually become much more of a male-dominated soap opera? When I watched wrestling as a child, it was much more, the Mean Gene Okerlund and Bobby the Brain Heenan and coming on a Sunday or whatever it was.
Well, it kind of when Vince took over in the mid 80s, he kind of made it try to attract the kids market in there, but now money. WCW came along, right. They had issues, and then they decided to go a little bit blue with some of their programming, and it got real popular, and then then started to get more politically correct, and now advertisers just coming. Now WWE wants to be the new Disney. Go figure.
Sure, because women who shoot steroids is just you there? It's just how I want to spend my evenings. But what Fox pay for the new package? Like $1 billion? They spent $1 billion on pro wrestling.
Don't know fully what the whole what they were doing, but I know if a nice big that'll really help out. As if he doesn't need the money.
No, he doesn't need the money, but it'll do well too. People will.
Yeah, I'll watch. I mean, I pay for the WWE Network. Come on, I got to be a fan. Of course, I also have the New Japan Network too. There, the New Japan World, so I get to watch real wrestling.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, just because the results are scripted, who's going to win before a fight starts.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that that's not athletic.
Oh no, there's no doubt about that.
And I have, and if Al was here, we would talk about boxing, and that became pretty rigged at one point.
Anything Don King got involved in?
Oh, sure. I remember you waking me up one Sunday morning. We go back to the football show, and it was the Sunday morning after the Tyson Douglas fight in Tokyo,
mm-hmm.
And you barged into my dorm room. Stories that we can't tell on the Rod Junkett Show, even it's on the same channel.
Yeah.
And you came in and said, "You will not believe what happened last night."
Mm-hmm. I was at a high school dance. Go figure. I was dating a high school girl at the time. I
want extra credit for withholding those stories to make you look good.
Oh, she wasn't that young. Come on, I was only a sophomore. She was what? She was just a couple years younger than me, but that's besides the point.
She was only 14.
Yeah.
You were at a dance.
But somebody came in and told me, you won't believe, because the thing is, we put money on that fight, and we bet against Buster Douglas, or we bet against Tyson. I mean, it was only like what, $5 we put in. It was that we were doing. And so, needless to say, we made some money that night, and I just about fell out of my chair when he came in and told me what happened.
I remember years later watching one of those ESPN, the 5 reasons why you can't blame, and the Tyson for losing, he'd fired his manager, and he had a terrible crew there. Whenever it was that he got, knocked down early or whatever. And they reduced the swelling. They're holding a condom full of water on his head.
Yeah, that ain't gonna help.
It's like,
It's not, I don't even think it was cold water, so how that's gonna reduce swelling.
think of it this way. Here's this boxer that was worth multi-millions of dollars, and he's holding a condom full of water on his head.
Well, I don't think they really took it too seriously. I mean, Buster Douglas had the talent. He just never performed in any of his really good at his fights. Well, his mother died a few weeks before.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he and Buster Douglas really put himself in, and he was going to train, and he played, and he had the fight of his life, and he because he was known as just having the talent but not the heart. Well, basically he had the heart, and then his next fight he put on 20-30 pounds or something like that, and he looked horrendous against Holyfield.
Oh, is that what the next one was? Like I said, if Al was here, he would say, and if there's anything you want to say in the chat, go feel free and do that. Yeah, I remember just being stunned by that, just absolutely stunned by that whole thing. And that was one of our Sunday shows. Came after our Sunday shows.
Well, I was happy because I got money out of the deal. So.
But did you get anything else?
No, I didn't get any of that. So I was a good boy.
You were honorable.
My wife's not here to counter that.
Well, when you said to me the other night that you were, yes, she'll never see this.
You'd be surprised.
Well, Davina's a nice woman.
Yeah.
How'd you meet your wife?
Yep, yeah, you have. She did come over.
Yeah, you guys have been over.
And you've seen my older daughter, but you haven't seen my youngest yet.
She's
the 5-year-old.
Oh, 5?
5, yep. She's 5 now and acts like it.
So you got 4 kids.
4 kids, 2 grandkids.
Wow.
I know. I feel old. And look at the gray.
It looks good on you. You've kept your head of hair.
Well, I grow my hair long, and it is really? Starting to recede. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. And it's time for me to get buzzed again. Somehow the color hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well, that comes.
Yeah. My mother she turned 66 this year, and finally she kind of went over half gray.
Yeah, my she's got the gray. My dad, he's still gray. And I got gray a lot earlier than they did, but I think having a little bit of stress from 2 teenage boys definitely helped.
But your mustache is your hair color from when we were in school.
Yes, yeah. I decided to grow this. I did have a goatee for a while, but wearing a CPAP machine, you can't really have the full.
I'm supposed to be doing the CPAP machine, and every once in a while I get acid reflux. And I can't take the mask off by myself.
That's true.
And so I have a fan that is just off camera, and I lay and it blows on me. And I've lost a lot of weight too. I don't know. At one point I got to 220. I was 2X, almost into a 3X.
Speak for yourself. I wear 3Xs, but I like baggy shirts anyway. So,
but now if I can now, I don't know the last time I wore medium, but I have medium shirts. They're kind of a little tight on me now, but yeah, I lost the weight. I went through some of the same issues that you're currently going through.
Yeah, with the diabetes. Yeah, I'm on the meds.
Yeah,
which helps. Well, I take mine too, and it really, really helps. We're getting old. We're talking about the meds.
Yeah, that's right. And we showed each other what we were drinking before we turned it on. If this was a conversation from, let's say, 1994, we both had beers.
Oh yeah, especially I was in the military. Oh, okay, just some sparkling water. This is cherry flavored
Dunkin' Donuts class.
Limited
on a Friday night, and with that, we lost a viewer.
Yeah, we're really high class here.
That's right.
Yeah, but I do have some Giant Mountain Dew I'm ready to use for the D&D game I'm playing tomorrow.
How long have you been playing that?
Or what? The Dungeons and Dragons in general?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been playing that. Oh, geez, that was about 11 years old.
So that was last week.
Yeah, true.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that was 30 some odd years ago.
yeah.
I started playing. We did did you see I posted that on
Mhm.
we've
Yeah,
lost half our viewers, by the way. That's great.
oh well, we're
Um
doing.
that's all right. We I got hooked up into an online group, played live on the internet on YouTube.
Mhm.
And so we did that for it was a 5 week series, and then did the last 4. And
Mm.
somehow I was the only one to survive.
Yeah, I'm in my group right now that I'm with. We're just about one step away from a total party kill (TPK). We're just about that far away from it, and I have a feeling I'm going to be rolling a new character tomorrow.
Yeah, I've told ID Jester, who is the one that's there, and if you don't follow that channel, Tony,
I do.
yeah, that was the group I did, and he's actually
Mm-hmm.
looking for players. So if you're interested, but the problem is that he does them at night, and I know you can't do
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But
it. But yeah, I get to roll a new character for that. That was really fun. I'd never done anything like I'd done some Star Wars stuff with my wife and a friend of hers, but I'm the old stick in the mud sports fan, so we did like 2 or 3 of those, and like I said, I enjoyed it. But
well, funny thing is, I'm a little bit of everything. I don't know where to place myself. I've got my geek mode with the sports. I've got it with the sci-fi. I mean, I don't know where I sit. Of course,
yeah,
maybe that's
that's what it is. It is what it is. But I really enjoyed it, and
Mhm.
so he did ID did some nice videos on uh the 5th edition, which is solid Greek to me, about what you could do when you were fighting. It's like, well, why? I found it very fascinating. I've watched almost all the second one, so I don't know when we're starting that up again, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's a great game. I mean, I'm more of a first and second edition guy. Of course, that goes back to my younger days. But I mean, I don't mind 5th edition as long as I'm not running it. That's
Do
how
you
I go.
DM or no?
I do sometimes with some of the older games. I also do some Call of Cthulhu, which is a horror game. I do Star Wars. Uh, some of the older versions, not the new Fantasy Flight stuff. I do a lot of the old DC. I know this is all Greek to you, but maybe if
No,
somebody's out there listening.
is the one I was actually familiar with, and I've
Oh,
actually
okay.
played some Eve Online, which is the most cutthroat thing I think you can ever play online.
Yes. Yeah, well,
There's more?
Call of Duty could be pretty. Well, actually, you don't do first person shooters, so
I really can't do a first person shooter, which is, but yeah, let me send a link to Al. You go ahead, talk amongst yourselves. So, which one do you enjoy the most?
Of all the role playing games,
Yeah,
of course, I'm a D&D through and through, but I really do like the Star Wars. I can really get into. There's a post-apocalyptic game called Twilight 2000 that I really enjoy. It's hard to find some new players that play a lot of the old games. I'm part of what they call the old school Renaissance, or OSR. I like all the old role playing games, but I will play some of the new ones too. But I'm kind of the old school guy. They like to always call me. I mean, I follow a lot of the guys on Facebook from the old school Renaissance. A lot of the I have I'm Facebook friends with the Gary Gygax's 2 sons. One of them's my age, the other one's a lot older. Tim Kask. Sorry, I'm trying offhand. Of course, I follow a lot of them, and of course, a lot of the podcasts. I listen to a lot of D&D podcasts. So that's how it's either neither here nor there. And still trying to send a link to.
I'm typing. I use these.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what I used in college.
It was a chopstick, if I remember correctly.
I used those for a long time. And let's see if Al actually comes on. We get the other window here. What you done for touchpads back in the day, huh?
Yeah, I know. And I also another one of the games I like to play is flight sims. Any kind of flight sims.
Yeah,
Love
I
flight
have.
sims.
I own the Steam edition. I have a new computer, and I tried P3D on it, and it didn't really want to. It's a long story with this new computer. It's an Acer. I like an Acer a great deal. And this is actually a gaming computer, and I got it because I was streaming. You've watched the football games, and when I started that series, look at the camera now at yourself, Ron. That's tip number one for good video production. And what would happen is that I would have the two screens going, and I would go to run a play, and it would get really hot under the touchpad, and I was going to burn through that that processor. So I sat down and not sure when the new tariffs are coming in. So if we're going to buy a new computer, now's the time to do it. And so I thought I bought an Acer. Beautiful little, what's it got? It's got a Core i5, which is not really what I wanted. And it's a 1050 GTI chip with 4 gigs of video memory. And so it almost runs City Skylines, which is the biggest freaking processor hog I think I've ever seen. And so when I get it open, it's an Acer product, but when I turn it on, the splash after the Acer initial splash screen, it runs, and then Lenovo stuff starts popping up. So what I got instead of what I thought was a new computer, it's an aftermarket computer that someone threw a hard drive from a Lenovo computer into. Went back and forth with Acer on that. It does what I need it to do, and that's fine. And I think it's made a big difference in production. Anyway, so I had P3D running on the old computer, so I re-downloaded it for this, and because it wants to think that I have an internal, a shared graphics chip and not the other one, it won't run. I can hear the plane, but it's all in black, so it's like Stevie Wonder trying to fly.
I really don't want what to classify mine as. Mine's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of a Dell, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's all pieced together. My upstairs neighbor is a IT guy up at Linden Institute, so he just gives me all his old stuff and we piece it together, and he gets it to run. So that's all that matters. And
I haven't spent this much on a machine in 20 years.
Ooh.
I had some money tucked aside, did a lot of homework on this. I got ripped off. I spent about 150 more than I should have, as it turns out. But lesson learned. I actually downloaded a video editor thing, because what I'd like to do is make the Ron Zuckett show, which you were on the other day, look a little better. Put your name on there and have a little intro, and I tried working with GIMP. Have you ever? It's a freebie version of Photoshop.
I've heard of it, but I've just used the Photoshop stuff.
It's just too confusing. Layers? Come on. How do I put text on a picture, damn it?
Yeah, I've got most of the stuff I do when I do a video, I use my phone.
Right.
It works so much better.
Phones are so powerful too.
I mean, I get some really good video with that, especially with stuff that I do for football and stuff. I could put it on stuff like that. Just record it and edit something up, and I send it away.
Is that what you use when you do the little things on the radio?
Oh yeah, when I do my broadcast, especially if I have internet access. Bruce actually my boss put up for a hotspot, and I use his hotspot, and I can just plug in my headset, this lovely thing, and plug it right into my phone, and I got a broadcast. It sounds great. Never had any complaints.
I remember way back when we had we had to make sure that the telephone line was hooked up, and there was a speakerphone in the studio at WWLR. And one time before a football game, it fell.
Oh.
And we couldn't find it. And it me in the studio with Eric Justison down, running back and forth. And we couldn't. I think I was like, this is my second week there. This was long before I was news director and got fired, which if you watch the other video, So I'm first semester freshman. And you guys are a year older, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying. So I don't know who the hell the girl was that was in there that particular day. Just some random, back when people actually wanted to do radio.
Yeah. impossible trying to find somebody up to get to work the station now.
Did you go up there with Deb Beliveau or Deb Davidson?
Yeah, I was up there.
And they go in. You guys go in the middle of the afternoon, like during the week, and there's nobody in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they run on something they call DJ Dell. The Dell computer. They call it DJ Dell.
They still play that. What passes for AOR rock today? What are they playing up there?
A little bit of mixture of everything. The people that are on here, it's open format. So basically, whatever somebody wants. I mean, I've heard country music there. I've heard rap. I've heard polka. I mean, whatever somebody wants. I've even asked the program director if he can bring in some, just bring in an alumnus or something to come in to do a show or something. I mean, I'd be willing to do it for free.
You'd probably have a very good time.
Oh, heck yeah. I'd be open format. Give me some metal. Oh, I'd be all over that.
What? No, Perry.
I play that enough. Come on.
Kidding. So anyway, that's the first story. We can't, whatever this hookup is, we can't find it. It's slipped behind the board. And Justy, who's always been nice and even keeled and understanding when people mess up.
I got into a few arguments with him at the time.
You got into a few arguments. Here, I'm 17 years old. I'm still playing at the drop of a hat, and he goes up one side of me and down the other because that one or two trainings I had made me the most qualified person in his eyes and in their room. Yeah.
I remember him getting ticked off at me one time because it was after a game and we were we were taking stuff down from a hockey game and I'm walking over. Of course, I'm totally fly by the seat of my pants type of person at that time. I kind of walk up to the goal light and I'm sitting here pressing the goal light button, flashing the goal light, and he kind of got ticked off at me for that, but I kind of deserved it, but not lack of professionalism for a 18-year-old,
But you were 18, for God's sakes. There's a little bit of a, if you got any questions, put them in the chat. I know some people are watching because they're telling that. So, if you got, Tony and I went to school together for, we were in the same building together for 2 years. I'm not sure.
About 2.5, yeah.
I'm not sure how much school we went to ever.
That's true. I mean, I did go to class. My final semester, I don't think I made many classes.
I didn't either. I should never have gone back that third year.
Well, the thing is, I was already going to the military. I was on delayed entry, so I decided why not kill some time by going a semester to college, pay some money to kill some time. I think I did. I think I played more Stratomatic than I did classes.
First high school I went to, Pontley, there was a kid, and I kind of remember his name, but just in case he ever watches or is still alive, I'm not going to mention it. He's, had been out of school 10 years. So he's 27, 28 years old. And he's hanging out in the high school library. And they can't, and it's a public building. And so they, at the time, this is 84, 85-ish. So they can't throw him out. Like, what the hell are you doing here? He wasn't even clever enough to be hitting on the girls. I mean, he was just bored out of his skull reading Sports Illustrated in the library and making conversations. It was weird.
Oh, I still go up to the college every now and again. Of course, I go to the library just to read.
But that's different.
Yeah, true.
The college buildings are, college libraries are a public building.
Well, you can't walk into the dorms anymore. You can't just walk like we used to. You just to walk right in through the door.
No, you can't, and that's probably fine.
Yeah, because when my wife went to Linden, several years after, it was about 10 years ago when she went there. Long since I left, but she had friends that were in the dorms, and she'd go up there, but she had to knock on the door and buzz them in, and every room had a phone, every room had internet access, and it was interesting to go because I couldn't just sneak into the dorms anymore.
Yes, but you got older and those girls didn't, and they wanted less to do with both you or I suppose, at some point. Here's how much they trusted us in 1989 in college. if your parents could call you in a suite lounge, there were suites. There was, I think, your floor, the upper floors had what, 4 suites?
4 suites, and each suite had a phone.
Right, each suite had a phone, and it was 2 boys and 2 girls suites. And we on the bottom floor we had a boy suite and a girl suite, and little apartment type things on one side, like a VIP thing, and the head resident lived down there.
Yep.
And so your parents could call you, but you could not call your parents. You couldn't even call. You couldn't even call in the town. Wow, this story has dropped most of our viewers, by the way. Yeah, there we go. How would I? There's how old I am. But you couldn't even call in the town and order a pizza. If you had to go call a parent, you had to go to the one payphone in the building. Oh, there was a payphone, I guess, down by the laundry, but I couldn't get there.
Yeah, there was a payphone on each floor.
Oh, was there a payphone on each floor?
Yeah, because whenever I'd go call my girlfriend, I'd have to go on. I'd always be looking around if the top one by where I lived was. I had to go down to each floor. Eventually, I'd send them somewhere.
Because there were plenty of nights where you could walk from our dorms, from our suite lounge to the main lounge to watch something on television and hear a couple breaking up on the telephone. You had absolutely no privacy. I learned my last year to go over to the building next door if I had to call home, because no one was at Harvey at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, no kidding.
So yeah, they let you. So cell phones and cable and all that they finally allowed there, then, huh?
Yep. And funny thing is, my suite got wired for cable, not legally.
Ours was legally. We were one of the few ones that could get it, but they wouldn't trust us to get Nesson.
We spliced up a cable from the downstairs, from the TV lounge, ran it up through some holes in the ceiling, and went all the way up to the 4th floor in our suite lounge. And we were able to get TV, cable TV. That's where we watch Monday Night Football and all the other stuff in our suite lounge, and other programming too. But that's the point.
Yes, but the days before digital scrambling, you could kind of get a picture.
Yeah, you had to press I think the 2 or 3 box buttons and flick the switch, and and then I think that's a boob. I don't know.
You can see a nipple. You can see it. It was kind of like watching porn while reading heavy metal magazine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Nowadays, it's kind of heck, you go online.
Now.
No, I stay away from that too.
We have I've been in a number of programs for my disability and all that for attending care, and so in one of my most recent recertification for that, I've been dealing with someone that I start another story, another person drops. I'm going to remember this when, later on. I remember talking to someone on the phone, and the regular person was on vacation. Her son actually my regular person, her son plays baseball up at Linden State. Last name is Thornton.
Okay. Name doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. His father passed away years ago, so it's basically a single mom and a son. She always has a good time when she's here. So anyway, she was gone for most of July and chunks of July and August. And so her fill-in was some, I talked to. In fact, the business card's right here. I won't mention the name yet.
Okay.
And so, going through when they're going to breathe through a nurse, that's recertify this plan. So I go, this way the state of Vermont does it is that they come to your home and they connect to a Wi-Fi, and everything's immediately filed. How many hours I get, and blah 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 blah. So the time comes, and I know the person's name from talking to them on the phone, but I don't recognize voices from 30 years ago. 30 years ago, and so here she comes walking in the door, and another face. I can't trying to place it. Which school was it? Was it Polly? Was it Howard? Or was it Lydia State? It was Lydia State. She's Odessa now. But we knew her as Odie.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep. Remember her?
Yep. Name.
Nice girl. Nice girl.
Mm-hmm.
Married, kids. Last name isn't Sabo.
Yeah, there was. I stumble into occasional people from college every now and again.
It's just one of those things that, and it's like, okay, which time of my life, was it a good time in my life or was it an awkward time of my life?
Mm-hmm.
Oopsie. Hi. So it was 2 hours of weird.
One of the strange things is when my sons were living with me and they were in high school. Well, now they're in their mid-20s, but when they were in high school, one of my younger son's best friends is the half brother of a girl I used to date in high school and college. And I kind of walk up to him and I say, I used to date your sister. And he gives me this strange look because when he said sister, he thinks of his younger sister, who's a few years younger than he is. I said, no. Your half sister. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. And then when he graduated, we broadcast the graduation at on the station.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there with my, got all the deck set up and I just plug everything in and I don't even talk. I just press a button and goes over the air. And she comes walking right by and, oh, hi, how's it going? Hey. And it's like, and her and her husband, now she's a professional poker player.
That's cool.
Yeah, she makes good money. She does IT work as well, but
because I get stuck inside a lot during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was legal, I actually had taught myself well enough to play that if I could sit down at a penny table, 1-2 set antes, that I wouldn't get my short handed to me. Now I played way too much and actually bought some poker tracking software and tried to teach that, but you can't tell me that's a game of chance.
There is some skill involved. There is definitely some skill involved. I didn't have the patience. Yeah, this is a guy who plays chess. Come on. I play chess online quite a bit. So yeah, I go on chess.com. I also go on chess24. I'm in there and play a lot of that. And plus I watch a lot of the big tournaments online.
There's one that they do every year from St. Louis that pops up in my feed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll watch it and I get immediately lost. I was in a chess club in elementary school. And one tournament I finished 4th by default.
By default? Okay.
By default.
Now they've got a big tournament that started today. Well, not a tournament, it's a match. The number 1 rated contender versus the champion, Magnus Carlsen. That's the guy. That's the champ's name. The number 1 from the US is battling Magnus Carlsen from Norway for the title. It's a 3-week series of games, 12 games under 3 weeks, and each game lasts like 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours.
Full-length game.
Oh yeah, I had it today. The first game I was watching it online, and boy, they take a long time to make moves.
Yeah. And if you guys have any questions for Tony or I in the chat, Tony and I have known each other for almost 30 years, dude.
I know.
We'd be happy to answer them because we think we're safe.
Yeah, I think I'm.
Yeah, you look great. Yeah, I'll watch once in a while, and chess is its own different language.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so it's kind of like computer programming, and so you might understand like 4 words out of 40. Okay, knight to whatever, but they're going so fast that it's just for me it's just kind of hard to follow.
Well, it almost has a it's almost an art form if you really sit down and watch it.
Oh, sure. And but I've tried to play some bridge. That's a hard.
I played that once. I never really got into it.
It's all about the process of that's weird to watch online too. It's all about the bidding. And if you've played hearts, you kind of know how bridge works. It's about taking trumps and not and whatever's. And it's so secretive. I mean, you'll watch a match online with the cameras, and you cannot see your partner. You certainly can't see your opponents, and they open up slats like you're in prison to feed you food. Okay, here's your bid. It's 3 spades. Okay, then you can actually see. Then they'll open up slats so you can see. But oh my, there must have been some rampant cheating at one point because it's so secretive.
I can believe it.
Yeah, so and that's a lot like chess. You might know the basics, but it's almost impossible to master. Scrabble's the same way too.
My spelling ability is awful, so I never could get into Scrabble.
I had a guy that worked for me that I played like twice a week. We would go to Borders and I would eat stuff I wasn't supposed to eat and have a great old time.
Borders, back when Borders was open.
Back when Borders was open. That's now a CVS, by the way. And that's great. We needed it so badly downtown. Anywho, and so I've played some of that online at the Internet Scrabble Club and get my ass handed to me.
Yeah, there's some really good players who have really big vocabularies.
Oh, it's not the vocabulary. I mean, Scrabble's in its heart is a math game that you play with letters. If you can, I mean, I have a Scrabble not around here. So there's you can fit if you know the 63 2-letter words. I mean, if you put an A on a Z or an I on a Z, you can make a word. Make a word with it, and you put it in the right place. And it's not just spell Quijibo.
Yeah. I'll be sitting there coming up with my own words. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a word. That's a word. It's German. Okay, it's German. Yeah. Some of those words.
On this internet club, they play with an American dictionary and a British English or Queen's English dictionary, a Romanian dictionary, a French dictionary, Italian dictionary, and a German dictionary, and one that encompasses all of them. Now, I'm sure the point values are different for certain things because of how letters are there, but and of course, 2-letter words that are not in American English are in Queen's English. Like oh is a word. Don't ask me what it means, but yeah. Here's something that might not drive people away. When we met years ago, it was very unusual. A mutual friend of ours dated a guy. Well, I'm not sure how much they dated. I think it was the safest boy for this particular person to be with because he wasn't ever going to do anything. But I remember her talking about how weird it was that this particular person played Stratomatic hockey solitaire. And at the time, you know who I'm talking about as far as the female is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Even though we thought it was kind of weird, here we are today. We're playing this. Did you ever think that we'd be doing this on the scale that we are? I mean, I run an internet channel based on playing games from 35, 40 years ago and talking over them. It's kind of weird.
Who would have thought this? I mean, who would have thought that we'd be able to play online, Stratomatic online?
Right.
I mean, who would have thought? I mean, yeah, they had the first Stratomatic baseball stuff on computer.
I remember buying it. And you had to buy the disc separately, and so it came on a floppy. You could install. I had a 20 megabyte hard drive. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'll never fill a 20 megabyte hard drive. The hard drive in this machine is 1 terabyte. And next to it, because I'm supposed to be transferring videos over to it, is a 4 terabyte external drive.
I got to get one of those.
That's about $100 if you watch for. What do you got out in Littleton? You got like a Best Buy in the area?
Yeah, we've got there's a not a Best Buy, but there's a Staples. And of course there's a Walmart too.
This is a Western Digital external drive, and when I switched computers, it worked for me. It was so much easier than Dropbox because I could just transfer files over immediately and not have to worry about. Because do you own any of the Action PC games?
No, I don't, but I do have things. I do have Strat. I have OOTP. I have Franchise Hockey Manager.
I played that and did not like it. I didn't. I couldn't. OOTP. If I want to go fictional, I'll use that. Or if I'm looking to be a GM, I'll do that. But I've never found it to be a good. Here's my small claim to fame story, or brush with greatness. I used to be in a couple online OOTP leagues, and I was terrible. It was a Japanese league. That was fun. And I was the Yomiuri Giants. And one year, I think we would do 4 or 5 seasons a year. So we would sim twice a week, and so like a month every week that you would play and set lineups. And I was always terrible about that. And I made sure that my people were taken care of off the disabled list. But this was back in like the second or third version, and so you were swimming in numbers then.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God.
And nowadays, you got to be an accountant.
And I think it's one of the things that kind of, a lot of people like it. But one of the things I guess that kind of turns me off, I watch Al's replays, his 1978 one and done tournament, and it's a wall of stats. When I do Action PC, there are stats obviously on the screen. You need to have that information. But it's not overwhelming. I don't need to know that Bobby Bonds was a 7-hitter against lefties and an 8 on the days that they ate SpaghettiOs or something like that.
I'm a stat junkie. So for me, I love numbers, stats. Give me charts up the yazoo. I love it. So
I love the win percentage thing. The WPA, that part I love.
The whip, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, the whip, no, I know that. No, the win,
wins per something.
It's a graph that they show at the end of the game where you can see where the team had a 98% chance.
Yeah. The weighted average or something like that. I forgot what they got.
Baseball Reference has it too. Where was I going with this? I completely lost where I was going with it.
You brush with fame.
Okay, so I'm in a real world baseball league, and I made the dumb mistake of trading Alex Rodriguez for a bucket of warm spit because he was going to be a free agent, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to sign him. And so in the league was some software engineer from Ottawa, Ontario, who worked for Corel. He actually was working for, I'm not going to give away the name yet because you'll know who I'm talking about in a minute. He worked on the last couple versions of WordPerfect, which was for those of you who are younger. That was the last major competitor to Microsoft Word. It was actually a pretty good word processor.
Before that, it was WordStar.
That's right. You guys had that in college with the amber screens. Dog Sidious joins us. How you doing, Dog? Dog says, ERA made me outstanding at mathematics. Cool. See, baseball can teach some skills. Anyway, so we'd have this, we would be invited to write ghost articles. You think you can write, go right ahead. I wasn't really writing, it's before I was actually took writing seriously. And so I would write a couple of things, but we had someone who would do Bill Simmons down to a T, right down to sarcasm, and a couple others that he did. Glad you're with us, Dog. And all that. And so, but the Bill Simmons really struck in my head. And I think he did I did Peter King. Because it was easy to do 10 things I think. And there was a couple others there. He might have done a Francesa or whatever. But his main love, of course, being from Ottawa, was hockey. And because he was a little bit older, he's younger than you or I, but I think he's in his early 40s. It wasn't the Ottawa Senators, of course. It was the Maple Leafs. Well, you know him as Down Goes Brown. Yeah, I spent a good year chatting with Sean McIndoe and having a good old time with him, and had didn't realize that he was doing all these things, and god damn, he was good. He was really good, and he turned that into he got the notice of Bill Simmons somehow, and now he's at the Athletic.
Cool.
Which is a really good read.
Now,
worth the money. It really is.
Now, one of the things I've noticed with OOTP, Kurt Schilling loves OOTP. I've actually spoken with him on his when he had his webcam show he was doing for a while.
Yeah,
before he got his podcast.
The taxpayers of Rhode Island really loved his addiction with OOTP.
Yeah, but I asked him one time how he felt about Strat, and he goes, "Don't like it. It's OOTP for me." So
the thing with OOTP is that one of the things, I don't hate the game. I was it's when the last time I was on with Al, going through and going and open because they had the sale on Steam, and that's just the worst thing you can tell. Was tell me there's a sale on Steam of something I might buy because it's bought. And it's hooked up to my PayPal, and so the wife doesn't. Now the wife kind of figures these things out, but and so when I installed it, I'm going, I never, and I looked and it was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and now 19. Oh, isn't that exciting? I mean, you can just get into so much detail. And what I really want to do when, play a game of baseball is I just want something that's easy to set up and quick to play. You love action. I wasn't sure I bought action a few years ago, the first time, like $53, one of those. Don't tell the wife I did this type deal. But he has sales. I actually through sales and stuff, you can get the decades, I think, for like $38 at the right time of year, the 10 seasons. And so
now, do they have a college football? Do they have college football?
I mean, 2nd and 10. If you're seriously into college football, 2nd and 10 is what you want because, like OOTP, all the seasons come for college. The new college seasons, I think you got to pay for. But there's like 2,000 rated free college teams. So if you wanted to play any bowl game in history, or if you had a hankering to relive the '64 Syracuse Orange, you could. You might not be able. I believe that all the AP and UPI top 20, there's a name that you haven't heard in years. UPI.
No kidding.
You could conceivably do that and play tournaments. It's not graphically as good as Action PC Football. If you go back and watch on the Ron Juckett channel, the first game, I think you saw that, was the 58 NFL championship game, and that was 2nd and 10, and that comes as a demo. You can I don't know if you can. It gives you some teams. It's kind of like the difference between if you look at action as a strat, then I would consider 2nd and 10 as an APA. You don't get end runs and all that. You get fourth quarter. You can do outside or inside, but it's run in the 4 different type of passes. But that's based on a pure cards and dice game. A lot of dice rolls involved with it, man. But
I for the football games I used to play Status Pro football. I don't know if you've seen that card game, Status Pro.
Yeah, there's a
Avalon Hill put it.
Yep. We played. Someone brought in Pater while I was there at Linden. Remember playing?
That was basically just the whole team on one card. They had no player names.
There were no player names on it. It was very basic. But you got someone actually did on another channel a bowl bound, which is the college version, a 60s tournament. And that was kind of fun to watch because so OJ Simpson wasn't playing for Southern Cal, but when they did a run play, I think one of the games I watched was Southern Cal and '63 Navy. So it was Staubach versus Simpson. It was, it leaves up to the imagination. But yeah, OOTP. I mean, they're better as a simulation thing as they were. I mean, if you've watched any of Al's stuff, there was one Friday night that we did that he did. He's doing a one and done for 78, and he always takes the lower team. So he's doing about this time of night, and I'm half asleep, and so all else got a stream going on. I'll watch, and it's the Braves and the Phillies. So about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And I figured I would drop in, say hi, and watch for 5 minutes because it's the 78 Braves. They suck. The game went 16 innings and the Braves won. And it was the most captivating. It was the most captivating thing. And Al just, he's kind of a little bit less on the octave scale than Gus Johnson, but he's easily excitable. So it sounds genuine. And like, wow. 45 minutes later, the cat's going, come on, let's go to bed. I'm like,
no. Gotta get this game. But yeah, when it comes to the status pro football, I like the fact that you could get the cards for the linemen. So you could have your own game and draft linemen and all that other good stuff. It's not like Strat where you have just your skill players and maybe an occasional the defense.
Football. There's a one of the people I played a D&D with is big into strat football, and it's a lot different than what the version that Paul Kaiser brought in with the 80 teams.
Yeah,
some of it's there, but there's more, a few more options. Basketball. I played a version of the status pro of that called. It's actually the guy that did second and 10. It's an Excel spreadsheet. Imagine that, playing games on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's good. That's real. Talk about things like accountants.
Hey, I have a setting on my video software to record Excel, to actually play games on Excel. Oh, look, you can see a paw behind me. But yeah, and they have people make the cards for every season. So this game Above the Rim has every NBA season and hundreds of college teams. I know you're not a big NBA fan.
I'm a college basketball guy myself. So.
Right.
So for me, I'd love a good college basketball game.
They're hard to find. They're hard to find. Well, there was what was it? It's a fast break college basketball. I played the hell out of that. It wasn't with real teams. It was you had to recruit players and basically create your own program.
They've got something like that for pro basketball, and not just the NBA. You had all the European leagues in there too. It's kind of like Football Manager, but for basketball. But they didn't have the actual names.
I haven't played it. Is it any good?
It's not that bad. You've got to guess what each player is because they don't put the real names in there, obviously.
Right. Speaking of Football Manager, I remember importing those from England on CD. So I've I don't know if there was a rack out in the hallway of my apartment that had all the old CD games. I don't even have a CD drive in this damn machine. But yeah, I remember paying like $40 to get it imported, and Sarah would check the mail and like, why has this got UK custom stamps on it? Oh, my soccer game.
Yeah, I have an old German floppy disk one I got years ago when I lived in Germany for a Soccer Manager game. I'm sitting here with the dictionary, German to English dictionary, trying to translate. Like you had to learn German somehow. Yeah.
So how does you've joked with me about doing a wrestling game that there's wrestling games out there. How do you do a cards and dice wrestling game?
Well, there's one. I can't remember the name of it. I know somebody out there knows what it is,
Your
and what they
parent used
say.
it. Was it like over the matter, under the matter, or something like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what there was like a sci-fi version, which was like Heroes of the Galaxy. You were an interplanetary wrestling organization, but then they had the same rules for you had all the old classic games, and how it runs is each wrestler had a card on there, and you'd roll the dice, and you'd have to consult whether it was an offensive or defensive, and then you would have to roll again to see what type of move it would be, and then you'd have to roll on the defensive card for the other person. It was a lot of dice rolling, but overall it actually played rather fluid, because you could also have rolls for manager interference or anything that really goes on. I mean, you could have different types of matches: tag team, cage matches, hell in a cell, brass knuckles, barbed wire, Royal Rumbles, battle royales, all the good stuff,
Because
different rules for it.
Can't get hurt. Oh no, this was not WWF. This wasn't based on. Dog's asking if this was based on WWF, and it's not, right?
Or no, they did have WWF wrestlers in there, but they didn't want to overstep their bounds, so they kind of changed the names every now and again. The one I have, the computer version I have of that, is called, just looking right now at it, it is called Pro Wrestling Superstar.
Okay.
It's $10 online. Just look up there, and
so the Rock have Pebble, and it's Bulk Bogan, and
yeah, but the one that I've got right now with Pro Wrestling Superstar, it has all the names, all the correct names. It's got all the goods from the old independent scenes back. It has all the territory wrestlers from the 60s and 70s. It's got the 50 guys from the 50s. It even has guys from like the turn of the last century, George Hackenschmidt, and it has all those things on there. It has like 6,000 wrestlers on there.
Wow.
From all the modern ones up to all the classic jobbers from the 50s. So if you want a Gorgeous George on there, you can put him in there.
Dog says he'd be the Junkyard Dog, which would fit.
Junkyard Dog.
I've told the story at least once or twice in the last month or a couple of months since I've started doing this again. But we used to get, when I lived in southern New York, actually, we get our TV out of Albany. And so on Sunday mornings, after the God Squads were done, we get a TV tournament time, which was bowling, which was two bowlers bowling for an hour. Mm-hmm. And then we get the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
Or at that point it was called WWF.
At the time it was WWF, yeah.
And so it was just before they had the steroids full of, girls full of steroids and all that. And everyone was dressed up in their leotards and 10-minute time limit, one fall, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And there was the guy, of course, George Animal Steel.
Oh, yeah.
Remember him. Apparently was a fairly gentle guy outside the ring.
He very smart, too. He was a college professor.
Yeah. And so as a 3, 4, 5-year-old, he would scare the living daylights out of me.
That was his job.
Yeah, because he would turn around at one point, and they weren't playing big arenas. This was this was 10 years before WrestleMania. So they're playing like they did later, the Memorial Auditorium in Burlington, the American Legion Hall in Scranton, the Armory in Albany, where the Patroons would play when they were in the CBA. Mm-hmm. So George the Animal Steel would be the guy that would discolor his teeth. And he would also eat the turnbuckle.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would get a mouthful of that. God knows what the hell that stuff was made out of, because it was 1974 or 5. Mm-hmm. And he'd sit there at the camera and with his mouthful of foam and
that was his job, to scare the kids.
Well, he was job well done, sir. Job well done.
The guy that scared me was a guy named Ox Baker. Big, tall, bald guy, had a Fu Manchu. He was just a really big guy. He was always working the Midwest and the South.
Wasn't he a contestant on The Price is Right?
Yes, he was. He was a contestant on The Price is Right. And a nice guy. I've met him at a convention. He is a really nice. He passed away about 5 years ago or so, but nicest guy you ever wanted. And most of those guys are pretty nice anyways. Most of the heels are nice guys because they have to be. But
Right.
But
But
when they're acting, they act like real jerks.
but
Most of them,
in the older days, and you go back to the the post Brave or the pre Brave game wrestling on TBS.
mm-hmm,
I mean, that was very much just like a backroads concert tour.
mm-hmm.
It'd be in
Oh yeah,
Birmingham one night and Chattanooga the next, and Atlanta on the third night. And then on Thursday, don't forget, we're down in New Smyrna, Florida, and then
mm-hmm.
we're at the Supper Club at Okeechobee.
And they would be, and the wrestlers would drive their own cars there. They'd be, have to drive like 300 miles overnight to get to two shows at such and such a city, and then they'd have to drive back the other way in the next night. And if you ever want to hear good wrestling stories, listen to Jim Cornette. His story. He's a funny guy. Don't agree with his politics, but overall, he's just a funny guy, and he's smart, really smart upon the business, and he tells great stories about wrestling history, and of course his. If you ever followed the old NWA, you know who Jim Cornette is.
And
Corny, big.
Doc says just like the circus, and that's absolutely what that was. It's a carnival.
It started. Yeah, that's where the whole thing came from. Was from the car. They use a lot of the terminology from the carnivals. Things like marks, kayfabe, which is a term that means following the fake story or something along that line. That's from the carnivals back in the old carnival days.
I knew a guy. When we were talking about this as a circus or carnival, he did They apparently wrestled in the church basement in Truthville, New York. Now, do you know where Truthville, New York is? Have you even heard of it?
I've heard of it.
It's between North and Middle Granville. Okay, so they're small. There's the town you grew up in, and then there's Truthville, which might have had 100 people.
Oh, Mosquitoville and Barnet.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it was his job to be under the mat and smash on the cookie sheet to make it sound like those falls would be as horrific as possible.
Mm.
But but they were all very community-minded, family-oriented entertainment, which is something that the WWE's kind of gotten away from not all of it.
They're getting back into it now because they realize that advertisers are kind of scared with the hardcore stuff, so they have a lot of family-oriented stuff. A lot of family-oriented, and that kind of ticks off the old school guys.
Well, which old school guys? People like your my age. You remember when it was a Sunday morning thing before the Meet the Press and football?
Yeah, some of those, but also the ones that in our 20s they had the kind of the hardcore era, like your ECWs and stuff.
They really when they really started showcasing the steroids and all that.
More of post Vince McMahon steroid trial, pre Bret Hart, the Montreal Screwjob situation, kind of the hardcore, the ECW where the flaming tables and the barbed wire bats, and I used to go to a lot of ECW matches when I lived in Boston, so I could tell you some stories of some of the old ECW guys. If there's any wrestling fans out there who are listening, all I got to say is the mass transit incident. I was there, and that's all you got to look it up. If you don't know, look it up. It's a legendary incident in ECW history. It involves a wrestler named New Jack, and
just tell the story because you're good at that.
Okay, mass transit incident. It was at the. It was down in Massachusetts, the Wonderland, I think it was, in there. And what the incident? Yeah, there was also kind of a ballroom sort of setup there as well, with the ECW. When they come up from Philly, they'd always go to they'd work matches there, not the Boston Garden or anything. They'd always work the small things, but they would pack it in there. They'd get 1,000 people into that small venue, and they were rabid fans. I mean, we used to scream bloody murder, and of course the women would all be scantily clad. It was like a stripper show in the wrestling ring sometimes, but that's besides the point.
It's part of the draw.
Yeah, true. Guys in their mid to late 20s, like myself at the time, it was fit right in. But there was a wrestler named New Jack. fine, outstanding gentleman. I know. Please, New Jack, if you happen to watch this, don't hurt me. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
I can't wait.
New Jack. New Jack. It was. Let's just say he took his position as a wrestler a little bit too seriously, and he's been known to stab people in the ring. Actually, hit people with actual bats. But this incident, he was in a tag team match with his tag team partner, and Devon Dudley was there, and it was supposed to be the Dudley boys, but one of them couldn't show up, so they brought in this kid, or this guy who happened to show up backstage, and he says, "Hey, I'm a wrestler." Big fat guy, said he was 18, dressed up in a bus driver's uniform.
I think I know where this is going, but go ahead.
And he happened to be, he was mass transit. He's kind of this Ralph Cramden type character. He was 18. He said he was 18, gets in the ring. Well, beforehand, in the back, when they're talking it up, try to talk about how the match is going to go. He's telling New Jack what he wants New Jack to do to him, not the other way around. He's trying to take control of the match. Now, New Jack's a veteran. He's old school, so he's thinking, I'm going to teach this guy a lesson. So the kid says, "I want color. In other words, I want to bleed." Okay, no problem. Do a little blood right up there, razor blade. Not New Jack. Match is starting. He's coming up there. They're doing a great job. I mean, it's a great job. The kid's flying all over the place. He's a big fat guy, but the kid's flying all over the place. Well, New Jack decides he pulls some sort of knife or box cutter out of his shorts, out of his cargo pants, and takes it and runs it across the kid's head. I mean, deep. And I was about 10, 15 yards from this, and you could see the gap on his head. He was bleeding like a stuck pig. He was bleeding all over the place. He's leaning down to, sometimes the wrestlers, when they gig themselves, it's called gigging. They gig themselves, they kind of squeeze their forehead, get a little blood. He didn't need that. It was dripping out like a waterfall. And kid starts screaming bloody murder. He didn't realize this. And New Jack keeps whacking him with things and really busting him up. And then the father of this wrestler, mass transit, starts screaming, "He's just a kid. Stop it." I mean, almost a full-on riot came up. And then as they're bringing him to the back, they're bringing him to the back. He had a huge stitch on his cut. And then New Jack grabs the mic and screams out, I'm going to use some French here. "I don't care if the fucker dies." Nearly starts a riot. This is how ECW was. You would get so much heat he got so much heat from that, just bleeding all over the place. Turns out the kid was 16. The kid was 16 years old. He faked his age, got in trouble. They tried to sue ECW, but they settled out of court. The kid was screaming as they were taking him out of the building to send him to the hospital. He's screaming, I'm a wrestler. I'm with the boys. I got blood. I don't want to go. I'm with the boys now. He wanted to be so wrestler so bad he lied. And New Jack taught him a lesson, of course, in his own inevitable way. Come to find out, this really was a problem because ECW was coming up on their first pay-per-view, coming up in about 2 or 3 months. The pay-per-view provider had heard about this incident and say, "Wait a minute, you're supposed to this is not what we want on our pay-per-view." Well, let alone they basically pushed New Jack off to the side during this, and they kind of worked, ECW, Paul Heyman and that crowd kind of worked out a deal to keep it in there, but it almost lost their pay-per-view for that. But
that was a dog knows about the Dudley Boys. Big smiley face for that. But back when we were in our early 20s, I mean, you maybe got 1 or 2 little pay-per-view options. I think when it was Adelphia that ran the show in Montpelier, I think we had 2. There was one. No, it was just one. because
because up here it was like one, and then it was like Cablevision or something like that. I forgot what it was.
I mean, here now I think there's like 20 porn pay-per-views if you want to do that, and all the sports channels. There must be 50 different pay-per-view options.
And the funny thing is now, all the pay-per-views, they don't go on. You now get them online. I pay my monthly fee and I can get all the 8 pay-per-views they want. I also pay for the Japan one. So I watch the pay-per-views from that, plus whatever they're making
and appearance. Those aren't scripted, right? Or not, or
they still are. They still got storylines about it, but it's more athletic. It's more believable. But it's fun to watch. Good athlete, good athleticism.
But they're good at what they do. So even though they know WWE, they know going in who's going to win the fight. I mean, they do their best to stretch it out. So it's
about different styles. I mean, there's a Mexican style, the lucha libre style. There's a Japanese style, which is called strong style. Very physical. A lot of hard hits. I mean, the chest slaps and all that other good stuff. And there's the WWE style, or the American style, which is kind of a showboatish, all about the show. Even though Japanese wrestling, or pro wrestling as they call it, they've kind of brought in some of the showmanship as well, but added in some of the athleticism. But you want to see Mexican wrestling, lucha libre, that's some wild stuff. A lot of flipping and zinging, and
you post on Facebook like the wrestling fail of the day.
Oh, I love doing those. The botch of the day.
Get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going, okay, what happened overnight? What's going on with my buddies and all that? And like, oh, I got a mouthful of food. What the hell is this?
Some of those botches are pretty bad, huh?
Oh yeah. Is there a tour up near you guys? I mean, I would think between Quebec and there's no, Burlington's 2 hours and Portland's 3.5.
They used to have a group up here called Green Mountain Wrestling. It was a real minor group.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yep, they were up here. They were run by the Legerman family. They went down. There was a group that came up from Manchester, WFA. It was run by what was his name? Steve Bradley ran an organization. A lot of guys who are now in the WWE made their way through that. So they would do shows in Littleton. They did a couple shows at the Fenton Chester Ice Arena, and they would even once in a while make a trip up to Newport. But now the one that's around here is one that I've been to a lot of shows, and this is Eastern Townships Wrestling. It's a really small, it's almost backyard how they run things.
Like Townships being Sherbrooke?
Yep, they work Quebec, and they also work parts of northern Vermont, and they're based out of, I believe, the Derby. They're based out of Barton, but they also work up into Quebec, so you get a lot of the stuff there. But I mean, I know a couple wrestlers in that, and they've actually asked me if I wanted to be their color comp or their play-by-play guy for some of their shows. Huh?
You'd be good at it.
Yeah, but the problem is they didn't pay very well.
You work in radio; it doesn't pay very well. Period.
True, but then I'd have to. I've thought about it. I mean, next time they come back down to St. Johnsbury, they've done a couple shows in St. Johnsbury. I might just pop in. I know one of the wrestlers because I used to, when I was a para-educator, I used to be one of the people that followed him around. So,
okay.
Now he's a wrestler.
When I covered the Red Sox, between Bleacher Report and Fansided and a few other things I did in between. Worked for a company called Sports Media 101. And I'm talking about this because they're no longer in existence. And you want to know about Fansided, I'm not going to do that in public, but Sports Media 101. And so I sent them a piece. I forget what it was, and maybe something I'd done from BR. And fine, you're tired. And we went through, and they'd paid for some video conferencing software. It wasn't like this. It was like webmeeting or .com or something. It's something that you paid an outrageous amount of money for. So like, okay, what kind of, there's going to be some real money involved in here. I mean, they've spent all this money to set up and stuff like that. Well, you get paid X amount per page view, which is how internet, I mean, that's that's standard for internet writing, is you get
Mhm.
X amount per page view. It's usually between $1 and $1.50 per thousand.
Ooh.
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And if you know that going in, it makes it a lot easier. You're not going to be
Mhm.
making thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
Every time I had this conversation with my mother, she would go, "What? What the hell are you doing?" And she was right. But this it had been written. I mean, these sites get picked up like Fanside. They get picked up. They write for a while, then they disappear for 6 months because the hours are terrible and the money is even worse than terrible.
Mhm.
And so we had no readership, and I didn't really know what to write, so I basically wrote Joe Schmo signed with and blah 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 blah. But
Mhm.
one of the great things was I got to cover that 13 World Series run, live tweeted all those games. That was so much fun.
Mm.
And that's how you pick up readers. You just interact with them. But I did a piece on the most read piece. I think was like 300 people, and it was on Jenny Dell banging Will Middlebrooks,
Hmm.
which I couldn't say banging. It was dating.
Yeah.
That was the rumors.
Yeah.
Will was never the same again. But Jenny back with him, and you had to whatever the quota was. Anyway, oh yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, dog. I appreciate that. Anyway, look, the cat's pretty much all stretched out. They owe me like $25 still.
Mm.
Because whatever it was I wrote.
Mhm.
December was huge. I think we did 3,000 page views. I get more of an audience for doing this than I ever did at Red Sox 101,
Mm.
which is kind of scary. So,
Yeah, me and some friends, we did a podcast. The podcast is still around, but most of the original guys have since left, and they've turned it over to some other people.
right.
It was allwrestling.com week in review, and we had t-shirts, we had I mean, it was like a 5-hour wrestling podcast. I mean, it was like everyone would send in like a 45 all the people would send in like 45-second or more spots, and the host would basically talk about what they did. And I was one of the contributors for it, and we got about 30,000 downloads of 30,000 downloads a week.
There's a lot of interest in things like that. And one of the things that not that I've had conversations with other people, but if you watch some of Al's streams, and I bored the cat even. Yeah, don't attack me. Don't viciously attack me. That the community. I mean, you look at some of these things like the game I did yesterday. I posted it on the sports sim thing too. Like 40 people watch me play, not all of, 10 minutes or so of the
Mhm.
Bengals and the Chargers from 1978. Okay, I'll do it. Great fun to do. But yeah, I can see where that is. I mean, there's all sorts of communities that just need to be pieced together.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
mean,
when I was
there's the wrestling community, you've got the D&D community, you've got the sports simming. I mean, there's all sorts of different communities
right. I mean, one of the tricky things when I was at district was trying to cultivate that community, because they had, I mean, the Nationals underperform as well as the Expos did. It's
Mhm.
it's stunning how much they've underperformed. I cannot believe that this team has never won a playoff round.
Mm.
And just sat there in the spring was flabbergasted about, like, come on, you're not a 500 team. What the hell is she into? Anyway, but yeah, I mean, doing all that work on Twitter to try to build a community, because no one had reached out to them. And so I could see where 30,000 that's scary. You look at your numbers and go, wow, 30,000 people listen to me talk for, I'm going to look when we're done here and go and see the view number and wow, we just, shot the breeze for 2 hours on a Friday night. 20 people watched.
Now, the funny thing is when you in the wrestling community, you get to the big names, they'll get like 1 million something. I mean, million downloads a week.
If you do like I did a podcast. I've done several podcasts. On what I did with you was a video podcast. It's amazing that people that will talk to you. If you don't say I'm with a big name, hey, I'm my friend Andrew Martin and I want to talk to you about whatever. I talked to Bernie Carbo, I talked to Gabe Kapler, Charlie Batch was a pain in the butt. I had a fascinating hour I spent with Lee Steinberg.
Bernie Carbo's a nice guy. I've met him.
Bernie. They want questions in advance, which is absolutely fine. I don't have a problem doing that. You have every right to know what we're going to bring up because Bernie Carbo. So tell me, what were you? Who mixed your highballs for you in the clubhouse? What'd you really think of Yaki and Zimmer? No, you can't do that, especially there's the temptation to do that, but no, you can't. So the older athletes are willing to talk to you, and I'm sure the wrestlers are willing to talk to you. I think
there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that a lot of them, especially on Twitter. They'll come. Some of them will have not the WWE ones. They're really strict on.
Well, there's a
keeping their guys
there.
Yeah, but a lot of the independent ones, the up and coming independent ones, they'll have sessions where they'll say, "Hey, ask me any question," and they'll come right back and talk to you. Even on Facebook, I've got a couple of them on Facebook. They love talking to me. It's great. Some of the indie guys they love to talk. They love to have you ask questions. And
I have a good buddy who's friends with older ball players. And they're out of the game, or they're doing side jobs or whatever, and so they're not protected by they don't have to be as careful, and they're not associated with ESPN or whatever. There are players that if you saw on the baseball card, oh yeah, I remember you. They would be commons, but not nobody.
Yeah.
And I think people like to be remembered.
Definitely.
Even then, as much fun as we had picking on Steve Grogan 30 years ago, the Patriots that year, they were 1-15 in 89, 90.
Yeah.
They were just atrocious. And they drafted Hartley Dykes, I think, in the 90 draft, which they did not do a receiver. They had needs at pretty much every position, and except for wide receiver, because they had Irving Fryer, and before he went to Miami, and who else? Stanley Morgan was still there, right?
Yep. Stanley Morgan was still there.
So they had good receivers, but they had me
and occasionally they'd have a good running back. They had that Stevens kid that had that one great year.
Oh yeah,
like 89.
Oh, 89. Okay, yeah. And then they had the corpse of Steve Grogan. And I, over the years would make the Grogan jokes. And I remember at Bleacher Report, I pissed off someone making a joke. Grogan was his hero, and apparently Steve's a great guy. I've heard great things about John Hanna too. Have you done anything with him?
No, I haven't stumbled into him at all.
Here's a good question. I should have asked you this the other day. Because you do the Patriots games, you do them on the AM side, right? Do the Patriots alumni do anything with the radio network? Do they make people available to you, or
no? Not really. It's kind of hard with them, but I know the Red Sox. They're always sending. They're always asking, "Hey, you want to talk with someone?" I tried to set up one with because Don, before he passed away, wanted to talk with Dustin Pedroia. I tried to set it up, but I couldn't get it done before he passed away. I wanted to get that done, but we just couldn't get her scheduled.
Great stories. There is a half-hour clip on YouTube that I think that someone had done on him. I don't think it was a Linden production, which would have been too bad, because that would have been the ideal thing. That's what they wanted to teach us, and we didn't listen very well. Yeah. Whose fault is that? Well, but they come down to the studio, and they'd done a half hour with Don. It was certainly 21st century. His mind was there to the end, right?
Oh yeah, he was sharp right up. I went to see him in the hospital after he had his stroke, and he was joking with me all that time.
That's great. And so, they just kind of set up a microphone and might have asked 3 questions, and he filled a half hour.
I think I remember seeing that because I think it was done 5 years ago because I was looking at
I think you were involved with them. How did you? I asked you this the other day too, but how did you get involved with that? Because you started where you started. You started at the country station, right?
I kind of moved.
Obviously.
I would help out every now and then at the country station. Most of the time, they needed someone to do sports, and I kind of moved myself in there. And then the kid who left who did the noon news up and left them in the lurch. And I was like, I could run the board. I came in one day, figured and sat down and just tinkered with everything and figured out how all the computer stuff runs. And by the end of the week, I had the show. So I had the noon news, and then
it's so different now. I mean, we did a Saturday night show,
mm-hmm.
and then we got up and did the Sunday morning post gospel show. What's he doing? He was younger enough, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen him. I thought it was one of the guys that went to my church, but it's not him. So,
because that show was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
That show was. I'm not really religious, but that show was phenomenal.
He did a good job. That guy was. I don't think his girlfriend liked me though.
You had a reputation then, Tony.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I come in my sweatpants and a hockey jersey. I probably smelled like body odor and.
Yeah, we both were not the Old Spice twins.
Yeah, no. And I'd come in and I'd be pulling Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, okay, there's a heavy metal album. Okay, be pulling them off the rack. And by the way, we had vinyl. For kids, we had vinyl.
Yeah, it wasn't a hipster thing then either.
No, a lot of skipping, a lot of.
The CDs were always stolen.
Yeah, we had one CD player.
And there was a CD player in the studio, but we played a lot of the newer stuff on cart because the newer vinyl would disappear too.
Yeah.
So we were left with old, stuff that even I would kill for now. I mean, it was Steve Miller Band and Aerosmith, and there was a piece of paper that was over the record, and you had to initial it, and we couldn't. So it had to be 2 or 3 days before we could play an older record. We could always tell Tony songs. Gloria by Aerosmith.
I found that on Spotify. I have it saved on my playlist.
And there must have been room for 15, 30 plays on it. TW.
When I did go up, one of my when my wife was going to Linden State, one of her best friends was dating one of the general managers at the college station at the time. So when he heard I used to work there, this was before I got back into radio. I was still working at the factory at the time and doing double duty as a firefighter as well. And he said, "Hey, you want to come in and do a show with me?" And I was like, "Who do I got to kill?" So he came in we did it was a 5-hour overnighter. I just went in there. We popped in like 3 monsters and we were drinking those Monster energy drinks down there and we had a blast. Thing is, they had vinyl. They had that same vinyl that we had there. And this was like 15 years after we left. They still had the vinyl there. And some of them still had some of the writing on the boards there. Had my initials there. Some of them had my initials. Of course, some of my graffiti on some of the album covers was still on it. I'm like, wow, this is an old record. They've since given all that away, but it was fun going through the stacks and saying, okay, I remember this one. Oh, wow, it's still got my writing on it. I guess you guys don't do this anymore, do you? Nope. Okay. I was still trying to find that, seeing if they had that hoods up thing that we scrawled on the wall in the studio, but that's since been that they covered that up. I was looking for it, but one time I went in there, and I'm still trying to find that commercial on YouTube. The hoods up for Protex commercial.
Yeah, that's yeah. I haven't seen that one. There's some great ones from the early '60s. Imperial Oil, Esso.
Yep.
But magic when the flagship of where you work now opened up, that
Mhm.
really killed LR.
Yeah, WGMT. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
kind of.
mean, it's kind of hard. I'm not sure if anyone's actually still watching this or not, but I don't really care if you watch it later. I mean, it was, we were in a weird situation. This was a college station, but it had a very good transmitter, and because it
Hmm.
was up high, it could reach all of northern New Hampshire
Hmm.
and parts of Maine, and of
Hmm.
course Quebec. So for college, I mean, I mean, the stick at UVM for the five people who listen to that, you know,
Hmm.
I mean, but they're so preserving whatever. I mean, no one's ever played a Stevie Wonder record at that station, okay? And we played
Hmm.
Stevie Wonder. Didn't play
Hmm.
him a lot, but I mean, we had the liberty to
Hmm.
do that. And so from, let's say, the late '70s to when GMT opened in what, 90, 91?
It was right around 90, I think, because I remember they were competing with the ZPK, which became PKQ, the country station. It was a pop station before that. It was
Right.
ZPK.
That opened up. They turned on the blowtorch my senior year of high school for that. I remember starting to listen to that then.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird. This was not only a college station that the college really wanted to control,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow they didn't. I don't know, who fought that fight. It was the community radio station for that area for
Mm-hmm.
years, for a good 10, 15-year period, because the AM station played middle of the road music and
Mm-hmm.
didn't have great night coverage then.
Mm-hmm.
It was also 1340 on the AM dial. It's 1,000 watt,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 watts day. What do you at night? 15, or is it
Something
1,000
like
watts
that. Yeah.
morning?
Yeah. But we don't really change the power. It just, for some reason, just doesn't. I guess something drops or something. I don't
Well,
know the
the
nighttime power.
Skywave takes over, and there's 1,000 stations on 13. Well, there's like seriously like 50 stations on 1340.
Mm-hmm.
The little pea shooter in Pulteney where I grew up was on 1340.
Mm-hmm.
Um, made me mad for years because it wiped out 1380 out of Rutland, which carried the Red Sox games.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here we are at the station where we just really can't do whatever we want. We had serious underwriting
Mm-hmm.
that we had to sell. We did the Linden Institute football games. Our
Mm-hmm.
friend and you, Eric and you, did the hockey games. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was unprecedented to do high school hockey. I
Mm-hmm.
remember doing color for one of those actually at the studio because one of you got
Mm-hmm.
sick. And so I had to go off at Eric's call, and it did okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we did a couple college basketball games. I got the first one
Mm-hmm.
I did with wasn't with you, it was with Ed, somebody or another. And it actually went really well. It was a good game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a men's game. And then the women's game, as I said the other day, was just an absolute,
Yeah.
it was horrible. Um, I mean, I did news twice a day. I did it at
Mm-hmm.
noon and 5 o'clock. We didn't do the
Mm-hmm.
hour that you do. It was all rip and read,
Yeah.
but I'd edit. My favorite story from that was there was a pigeon overpopulation problem here in Burlington. There's still a pigeon overpopulation problem here in Burlington. And so they tried to poison them. The UVM animal science department had figured out that the winds blew in this particular direction a majority of the time, and if you fed them some poison corn, that the winds would take the birds over to a cornfield owned by the university where they would perish.
Mm-hmm.
The winds didn't change that day.
Oh.
So instead of dying in the field like they were supposed to, they were flying over Shelburne Road and smashing into car windshields.
That's my joke. That's my joke story for the day on my
And
radio
so this
station.
was a serious story. And the person that I was referring to earlier that had the ex-boyfriend who played the solitaire hockey,
Mm-hmm.
straight laced, she'd say poop with a mouthful, but she wasn't a jokester. She looks at me with a straight face and says, "I'll pitch Dollar King." That was my favorite. And then we had a barn
Oh,
fire. Now you learned very young you couldn't joke about those things. And
mm,
that was a 5 o'clock story. And the guy that was the DJ that day was a particular douche. I mean, we did 3 hour, 3 hour. There were so many people who wanted to do it. You couldn't do more than a 3 hour slot on a week.
yeah.
And so he lived in Massachusetts. I don't remember his name. I just don't remember that he wasn't very nice. Um, and so there was a barn fire, and he made some sort of joke about steaks, which we heard about.
Mm.
You
Oh,
don't
yeah, I can believe it.
you don't joke about that sort of thing.
No, no, no.
But the pigeons. And so I've told my wife that one a couple times about the pigeons because I live in Burlington now.
Yeah.
And they are everywhere. They really are.
Oh, yeah. When I go over there to see my sister-in-law, yeah, we go out there. My wife calls them the dumpster ducks.
Oh yeah. I
Seagulls.
remember
Dumpster.
we can go to City Hall Park during the day. You don't want to be there at night, but during the day. And so when we lived in another place from where we are now, there was a Dunkin' with Donuts was in there, and we went to Dunkin' and we had a picnic lunch at City Hall Park, and probably got in a fight with a gull because it wanted our food, and the damn thing was huge.
Oh yeah, they get pretty big.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have a little picnic area out where we live now. You've seen it, and yeah, if I bring French fries, if there was a little diner, and I'd go get the hamburger and fries, damn thing would try to steal my fries, and not much you can do. All right, what else before I let you go?
Well, wife trying to ask me a question, but I was asking if her CPAP was here. She left it here. She's over at her sister's. She's over in Essex now for the weekend.
Right.
Next time I'm over in that area, I'm gonna have to pop by there.
Oh, you should.
Because I know I go over there. Well, I don't spend the night there anymore like I used to because too many people there. Kind of since my mother-in-law has Alzheimer's now, it's kind of fighting that. We don't want to have a lot of people in the house at the time, so we take one daughter over and one stays with me. Then I'm a loud snorer anyways. I don't want to wake her up. So
right with the apnea and stuff like that. My mother discovered mine. I had to go to DC for a business trip when I worked for the Vermont Center for Independent Living, and I'd live by myself. When I didn't go back to Linden, she said, "You're not living here," and I ended up in Montpelier. It was the right thing to do, and so we shared she didn't like her room or whatever. Everything was comped anyway, so she's fine. We're sharing a room. Yeah, great. And she kept trying to wake me up because I wasn't breathing. And so I ended up doing a sleep clinic. And like I said, I should have it, but I've lost a lot of weight. I'm down to about 135, 140.
Yeah, that helps out a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lost about 30 pounds since stopped drinking sugary soda.
Well, that was, for me, that was the big thing. You just the metformin is a good appetite suppressant, or at least it was for me.
For me, it's cleans out my system.
Well, that too. Every time they've had to raise it 30 days. I did family last year after the last raise. Like, oh.
My wife and I have something called our metformin moments.
Yeah, because you don't want me to let one loose here. I've got 20 people downstairs, and it would just be in a big hurry. Yeah. So that was, but the big thing, I was a big Coke drinker. I mean, we had a mutual friend who drank a 12-pack a day. Now, when that was enough said about that. But I was drinking. I would have a 12-pack at home that would last a week, but I would go out since I'm not a coffee drinker, would have one at downtown every day, and might have another one with a meal. So I was drinking equivalent of a 2-liter bottle every day, and just dumping that 500 to 1,000 calories made all the difference.
Oh yeah. I used to drink energy drinks, and I would make my own. I mean, we had those soda machine, those little
Oh yeah,
spray
yeah, I've had the
soda
soda machine.
streams. And I usually got the energy drink ones. I'd drink 3 of those. I mean, the big bottles. I mean, I'd be wired.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
shows sounded great because I was so wired, but
Yeah. Well, you don't have to sleep.
it's like
No,
my
I
bro.
had a Red Bull once. I thought it was the most disgusting thing I ever had.
Oh, they're not made for taste.
No, they're not made. No, they're definitely not made. When they came out with Jolt, I had been thrown out of Legacy at that point. I remember drinking a Jolt and falling asleep.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Red Bulls are they're good. But they're good mixing with alcohol, though. I will admit
I've heard that, and they make a sugar-free Red Bull. But
yeah.
If I drink coffee after 2 in the afternoon, I'm hurting.
Yeah, I'm that way. I stop. I don't have my Mountain Dew afternoon. But of course, tomorrow when I'm gaming, I'll be drinking like.
Oh yeah. So are you gaming with anyone I know? There's one name that when you said that, I wondered if he was involved, by the name of Wes.
Yeah, no, he's not with the group. I was playing with him for a while, but he's real busy with his job. He does social work here in St. Johnsbury, and he's got 2 kids, so he's really busy with them.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, you were about to say something.
Are you familiar with the software Fantasy Grounds?
Yes, I'm very familiar with that.
Okay.
I don't use it myself, but I know what it is.
Well, if you use it yourself and if you feel like starting one of those things, I'd be interested, because that's how we did it that's how we did it through. I mean, I know, they're internet friends of mine that I did this with, but a couple of those, but I've never met any of those people.
Yeah, because I was doing stuff with Roll20. That's what I was doing, and I was doing some stuff with online with that for a while on Roll20. But the guys I play with now, I mean, we're all within this like a block and a half of each other.
Better to do it face to face anyway.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the closest one. I just go upstairs,
and I think that the second season with some of those people, I think will go really well. But nothing's like sitting there with your beverage of choice. I have no idea what the hell my cat is. Oh, don't eat that.
Sounds like my cat.
And my wife isn't home for 40 minutes. Wonderful. Whatever it is, she's gonna pick it up. She's eating some sort of plastic wrap. Probably found the gum that she stole from me the other day. But the point, with your beverage of choice and your snack of choice and sitting there and doing that, I mean, that's just the best way to do it.
Definitely. I mean, I got the guys I play with upstairs. I mean, there are 2 of them. Well, actually, the guy and the girl I play up there, they live upstairs. I play with them, and 3 other people that live in basically within walking distance of the house. Of course, I'm the oldest one by 10 years, but oh well.
Yeah, but they bring, if you go like a half generation lower, they just have a different thought process, which makes for a potentially better game.
It makes it real interesting on how we view things. I'm still an old school type of, I view gaming as in the old school sense. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, you don't bring your tablet to the table. You have your books. You pay attention. Well, these guys are with their phones. They've got their rule books on their tablets. Well, I should say I have that now, but I don't have the rule book on my phone. But yeah, you set things off to the side.
Yeah,
but they're sitting here.
You board game? I mean, obviously you did the Strat and the D&D, but the one thing that's kind of amazed me in the last 10 years is the resurgence of serious board games.
Yes, I've been invited to join some groups up at the I think it's called Borderline Board Games. It's up in Newport.
Okay.
They do a lot of D&D there, but they also play a lot of the other Settlers of Catan and things like that. I mean, I'm okay about it. I will sometimes play things like Axis and Allies. That's an old school board game.
I've got that. It was a little too complex for Sarah. But we played it, but it was enjoyable. We had a group that would come over and play Risk.
Oh yeah, that's changed a lot too.
Yeah, You know, Sarah would make dinner, and we'd spend the evening playing that.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
Yeah, we do that with my cousins. We'd play Risk, and we were like we were like a small war gamers club. We'd all get together and play Risk or Axis and Allies or Fortress America or things. Or
Rocknard, I don't know if you subscribe to him or not.
yes, I did. Yes, I have.
He's playing a game called Order of Battle, which looks to be a real basic, and I've actually done one of the tutorials because it's free on Steam. I also picked up Open General, which I guess
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a typical indie game. They all fight all it's you know. You go never you know. You would think the message if you were for message board for a game would be helpful. You sit there and read half the crap on there and go, can you do anything ever constructive?
Well, some of the rules you've got to actually. There's a couple board games that I've played. I mean, the rule books are like that thick. I mean, these are like. I know if Grognard were listening, all I got to mention is advanced squad leader. That's all I got to say, and he know what I'll be talking about. The rules are that thick and complicated.
Into that because I mean, I played mostly sports games because that's what I know. But it's like sometimes, like, come on, you got to do something else besides that. So I looked into that because I'm interested in that. And Sarah's never going to do that. She's just never going to do that, and that's fine. Does Davina do any gaming with you, or she just doesn't care?
She's a little questioning on the Dungeons and Dragons thing. She's real spooked out by the magic and all that other stuff. But she would like to play a superhero game with me because my daughter plays D&D with me, my eldest daughter.
Oh, isn't that cool? That's awesome.
She's 12 years old, and she's a high-functioning autistic. D&D works great for her. It really helps.
It's not a game where you lose. It's
all
about creating a story.
Yeah, and it helps out with her connecting with other people because she has social anxiety. So it helps out with that. Helps her out with making decisions.
My cousin that lives in Randolph. You might have met her once along that line about 18 gazillion years ago. Is a D&D-er. Her and her husband do that, and she posted an article specifically about that. It was such a great way to get people with high level autism into feeling comfortable about themselves. Oh, so you come back, Miss M, after you've eaten whatever piece of plastic. No, she's a good girl. Yeah, and so that's awesome. She must feel so much better. She gets to spend some time with you.
Oh yeah, and she gets to socialize, and she loves comic books. So for her, and she also likes history. She has a book right here. She loves history-oriented stuff. So graphic novels. She loves history-oriented stuff. She'll read up on that. Very smart girl. Very smart girl.
Absolutely. Yeah, I met her. She was really good. That was tough because she was like 5 or 6 the last time that you were here, and you're gonna go meet someone you don't know, and I'm not sure if her issues were apparent at that age or not, and so really tough. And she
was very little. It was starting to show a little bit.
Yeah.
But now she's still shy, but when she's familiar with somebody, she's very outgoing. And she's definitely a young lady now at 12. She's
kind of scary.
Starting to attract the boys. Dad, can I borrow your gun?
I'm not going there.
But she's not interested in boys in that way.
Well, she's 12, and that's not really what she's about. My youngest sister, Cass, was always the wildest of the 4. My mother would tell her, "May you have twins." My niece McKenna and my nephew Dylan.
Yeah, I've got my mom's like, you've got a high strung daughter, so you now know how we felt as a kid. Okay,
I remember, and get me the last story here because I know because I'm starting to fall asleep. I remember when I started at Gym Sports, when we were downstairs at the mall, the town center or now cities, whatever it is. the Goo cluster project that has stalled here in downtown Burlington.
I've read stories about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? I don't know what the AP reported. He sold half of it to a hedge fund, and the hedge fund said he didn't have the funding to start, so it's torn down. The front block is still there.
Yeah, because that's still kind of like our EB5 scandal we have up here.
Oh yeah, it's about that because we changed. Not us, because 14-story building in downtown, it's just too big. But we got laws changed for him, and that lot has sat there empty since the end of May, and it's the 9th of November. If they started tomorrow, they could only do it for about 3 weeks construction before it gets too cold. You know, we don't get winters like you do, but you know, you get snow today?
We got a little. Danville got about an inch, but we got like a little bit of a dusting. Mostly wet stuff.
It rained here, but I looked at the radar about 9, before we started, and there was some pink and blue. Anyway, so we're down there, and I always love working the school vacations. And that one in February, March, that ends on town meeting day, that 10 days. And so I remember we'd work the Monday before. I think I worked Mondays and Thursday nights. And the kids were so bored the second week out of school. We're calling my mother up and apologizing for ever being 16 years old.
Yeah. My sons now call me and say, Dad, I was a jerk. And I'm like, finally, they get it.
They get it. Yeah. Yeah. No, it happens. It happens. Well, I never heard from Alan. He never popped in the chat. It was nice for Dog Sidious to kind of chat with us. And don't normally do this. Dog Sidious does it. They actually planned some things out. And so tomorrow night they're doing with Al, and I think comics with Bueller. And I'm not sure who else is going to be there, but it's not a sports chat. So I get lost if it's not one.
Wow. Okay.
But at some point, if they do it on a Friday night or a Saturday night, that that your house to yourself, let them know, because you've watched enough. I mean, I can pick up on a lot of different things, but I was never the G.I. Joe, He-Man thing growing up, and I never read Circus Magazine, and I laughed at wrestling. And my hair was never that big. Never that big.
I miss my long hair.
I've seen pictures with your long hair. You don't look as much like Pedro anymore.
No, I don't.
But it was funny when Napoleon Dynamite came out. You were the first one I thought of.
You're not the first one who said that either. Deb Belva or Davidson.
Right.
She said, that's you. I'm like, oh, great, thanks. And my cousins said the same thing.
Yeah, there are worse things. Early on in the Facebook thing, it was like, find your doppelganger. And I'm looking around to see if anyone I looked like anyone. The closest thing I could find was Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
I look like Napoleon Dynamite, but I have the mind of Quagmire.
Giggity goo.
That was me back in the day. I'm not that way anymore. I've matured. I've matured.
Doesn't mean you don't think. Hi, Davina.
Oh yeah.
But you've matured. Well, you've got young daughters now, and
yeah. Here's the story. Dad's gonna puke up on you. Okay. Those days are done.
And you don't really miss them. I mean, I suppose, we've done some reminiscing here, but we didn't, you do, but you don't. I never, obviously I do retro sports, so obviously to say they don't, but it's not the missing part of it that attracts me to it.
The memory, it's the good memories of it.
It's good. It's absolutely good memories. But, if someone said, could you do a modern season? I would at least think about it. At some point we'll get the freaking Nationals over the hump.
Yeah, maybe that's something I ought to try with the OOTP. See if I can
that
get the Nationals.
That definitely is an OOTP project, because But don't take them in the first year. I loaded up the 2005 Nats thinking, okay, I can do that and bring them through. And they have some terrible contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to extend the one, I think Tomo Oka is a free agent after the 05 season. And if you try to extend him, the team is already 19 million in the hole for 2006.
Ugh.
Oh my God. I mean, how the hell did they? All right. Well, hopefully on next Friday there'll actually be some sports action. And if not, I mean, Al did not feel well, and that's fine.
I can understand.
Yeah, and he there's no set rules within the community. We can all do what we kind of do.
Mm-hmm.
But Al is so good at boxing. He is so good at boxing that I really don't want to start a boxing project without him being involved in it somewhat, because we all kind of copycat each other. They're different. There's lots of different projects you can do within said games.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm doing this and he's doing that, I don't want to. He's so good at it that I don't want to do it with. I have his blessing, but I want him to be part of the project. And so there used to be a Friday night chat at Alden, and then Dog City has done the Saturday night chat. And for reasons I'm not going to go into, it's kind of dropped to one a week, but they have a lot of fun. I know that there's been more Sesame Street designs done for Game of Thrones. Did you catch that that one where Bert and Ernie? I don't know Game of Thrones, but that was hilarious.
I could expect it, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was Bert and Ernie and Big Bird, and there's the Stratomac Delaware does a very good Kermit and Piggy thing, and but he's better than I am.
Oh,
yeah, I can do Kermit, but he does it really well. So that would be, I think he'd be good at that. So let them know. All right, hit that like button. 3 people actually liked this. I'm not. Thanks.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, so I could see us doing some more of these as the winter passes along. Like I said, it's not a formal Ron Zucker show where I ask questions, and this was more of a chit chat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to, if you get over here, we could do something together. I'd love to get Al up here. I love, any of my work partners over the years. Ricky down in Staten Island, Drew's down at Virginia Tech. Oh my gosh, we'd have so much fun. Can't go to the mall anymore, but that's okay. That pizza place, I'll close it on this. When the last time that Tony and his wife, and at that point it was just the 12-year-old daughter who I believe is the same age as your youngest daughter's what? 5, 6?
My youngest daughter is 5.
All right. So Natalia, that's the oldest one, right?
No,
Lexandra was Natalia's age the last time that actually saw you outside of a camera. And so we went to the pizza place in the mall because it was just, funny. You're going to take a 5-year-old. Let's go get some sushi. I don't think so. Let's go get some kale. I don't think so.
Not with her.
Not with her. There's a ramen place that's pretty good here now. Anyway, pizza's safe. Everyone eats pizza. Even Leonardo's is gluten-free. I don't do that.
No.
I'll do a whole wheat, but I won't do gluten-free. Anywho, that pizza place was probably open maybe another 6 months after you were here. And what he did was he packed up in the middle of the night and left. And did not tell his morning crew who came in to make breakfast, because they were the only place in the area that actually made breakfast. McDonald's had closed. And so it was before the diner, and so you really couldn't get bacon and eggs for like $4 or $5 with coffee anywhere. You could go and pay penny close prices for $10 or whatever, but if you just wanted to go and grab a quick breakfast, you just couldn't do it. And if you worked in that mall, it was essential. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to grab a slice of breakfast pizza, which was essentially quiche. And Sarah grabbed a coffee, and I'd grab a soda, and we would do the whatever shift that needed at the store. He never told them, so they came to work the next morning and found that they were out of work.
Oh, Merry Christmas!
Not that, I think it was. I think it was around this time of year.
Sheesh. Yeah, that would have been. It's always nice.
You
Kind of like
know,
my factory job.
the guy that ran it in the morning had a special needs child. He was highly functioning, but had problems. I'm not sure if it was autism or Asperger's. It doesn't matter. Had lots of medical issues himself, and he finds himself out of a job 8 weeks before Christmas. I don't understand people. Hey, this was fun. This was fun. So I'm sure we'll do this again at some point, and won't be every week, but yeah, this was kind of a fun thing. So hit that like and subscribe, and if you want to just see more kind of freewheeling and dealing, we both have stories.
Some good, some bad.
So it's the
some
best
clean.
one to get into.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good night.
All right. See you later, Ron.
Good night.